Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. Got some Thursday night Sunbelt action. South Alabama's on the road against Georgia State. Let's talk about it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Panthers at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. South Alabama, Georgia State. I think the main question in this one is South Alabama going to be quitting here? Last week was a backbreaker. This was a game they needed. They were sitting at 1-5. The only way to save their season was to win this game. It was a very winnable game at home against Arkansas State. I believe they closed as touchdown favorites. Arkansas State's a defense that can't stop the run. It was literally a perfect matchup for South Alabama to save their season. And it didn't happen. They blew a lead. Arkansas State kicked the field goal to win it at the end. 15-14 was the final score. South Alabama, despite playing at home in a must-win game, this is an offense. All they do is run the ball. They were at home in a must-win game against a bad run defense, and they had their least efficient offensive game of the season. They were held under 5 yards per play, 35.8% success rate, just 14 points at home against Arkansas State. Just a backbreaking loss for the South Alabama team. So now here they are on the road against a Georgia State defensive front that they should be able to run on. Stop me if you've heard this before. South Alabama, they need this win or the season's over. I mean, their season, they have to win out to play in a bowl game at this point. They're 1-6. But here they are against a Georgia State defensive front that they should be able to run the ball on. Georgia State's 131st in success rate per rush, 134th in PPA per rush. This is a defense that South Alabama should be able to run the ball on. Now, maybe they have an excuse. Their starting right guard, Asher Hale, did not play in the Arkansas State game. He's listed as questionable, so maybe they get him back. But I'm just grasping at straws here. I mean, South Alabama really should have been able to run the ball in Arkansas State. Now, this Georgia State defense. So this Georgia State team is interesting in a few different ways. We'll start with the defense. So, all right, you look at their season-long numbers. We just looked at it on the screen. They're one of the worst defenses in the country, and that's what you would think looking at their year-long defensive numbers. And that's honestly what people were expecting coming into the year from Georgia State. Couple things to point out. Since they've gotten into conference play, the defense hasn't been that bad. It hasn't been good, but compared to their year-long numbers, they're allowing 32 points per game, but they do play up-tempo, so we can expect Georgia State to play in some high-scoring games. They're allowing 5.69 yards per play, 43.2% success rate. Their numbers against the run, yeah, it's not good. 47.3% success rate per rush, 4.87 yards per carry. Not good. But in comparison to their season-long numbers, it's not that bad. If you take a look at Georgia State's schedule so far this year, I mean, they opened up the season on the road in Oxford against Ole Miss. Then they played Memphis. Then they had the FCS game. Then they played Vanderbilt on the road. So this defense has been through the gauntlet in terms of the offenses they've seen. So I actually think we need to give Georgia State's defense a little bit of credit. Since they've gotten into Sunbelt play, they have looked not good, but they've looked okay. They haven't looked nearly as bad as their season-long numbers show. And the way they're pulling this off is truly crazy. Remember, this is a defensive front that lost their starting defensive lineman, Dorian Royal, for the year. I think that was in fall camp. He didn't play at all this year. He's out for the season. They also lost another defensive lineman, Sir Mells, for the year. That was in week 1. So 2 starting defensive linemen out for the year immediately. And in this game in particular, defensive tackle Henry Bryant, he left the Georgia Southern game early. He's listed as questionable. Edge rusher Ian Matthews is also banged up. He's listed as questionable. He's only played 11 snaps in the last 2 games. And freshman defensive tackle Jartavius Floney, he's also listed as questionable. He's been playing a lot. So in addition to losing 2 starting defensive linemen for the year early, they've got 3 other defensive linemen that are questionable for this game. So I don't know how we could possibly trust this defense against South Alabama, who can run the ball. But the truth is, since they've gotten to conference play, they've actually been somewhat okay. And South Alabama couldn't run the ball on Arkansas State last week. It's very interesting. Talk about the matchup on this side. I personally think South Alabama can run the ball on them with all those injuries, and I don't think they're a great defense. But do want to give Georgia State a little bit of credit. They've played pretty well on that side of the ball, considering the circumstances. Now, when we flip it over to the other side of the ball and take a look at Georgia State's offense, it actually gets even more interesting. So on the year, looks like Georgia State can move the ball on this South Alabama defense, and I think they can. They're 96th in success rate, 95th in PPA per play. Keep in mind who they've played. They played a tough schedule so far this year. The most interesting part of this Georgia State offense is the quarterback situation. So for those of you who don't follow Sunbelt football, coming into the season, it was supposed to be Christian Valaire at quarterback. He was the quarterback last year. Coming into the year, we all expected Christian Valaire to be the quarterback this year. Now, TJ Finley transferred in late. That's a guy who originally was an Auburn recruit, I believe, and he transferred in late. So we were kind of like, okay, maybe Valaire has a quarterback competition here. TJ Finley hadn't played well, but he was at Auburn, and then he was somewhere after that. I forget exactly, but he's originally an SEC recruit. So we were thinking, okay, an open quarterback competition between Valaire and Finley. The season starts, Christian Valaire starts the opener, doesn't look good, and immediately they're like, oh, we're reevaluating the quarterback position. And then it looks like TJ Finley got the job after that. During this process of trying to figure out who the starting quarterback for Georgia State's going to be, they were actually mixing in a third quarterback, Cameron Brown, who I didn't even know existed until the season started. I didn't even know who that was. So they started mixing in this third quarterback, Cameron Brown. It looks like here we are now in week 9. Cameron Brown, I believe, is the starter. Last week against Georgia Southern, Cameron Brown started and played the entire game. I'm pretty sure it was the first game all year where a quarterback has started the game for Georgia State and finished it and played the entire thing. We've seen quarterbacks splitting snaps. So it looks like Cameron Brown is the guy. What makes it the most interesting is last week, Cameron Brown got the start. It was Georgia State's most efficient FBS game yet, by far. So far this season, 24 points, 59.7% success rate is excellent, over 6.1 yards per play. Now, keep in mind, Georgia Southern's defense is terrible. We do have to mention that, but it looks like Cameron Brown is going to be the starter, and the offense looked all right last week in his first game as the official starter. He was efficient throwing the ball, too. 280 yards, a 104.6 QB rating. So this is the guy, and Georgia State's offense looked pretty good last week with him at quarterback. Now, again, Georgia Southern's defense is terrible, but honestly, so is South Alabama's. Look what happened the last time South Alabama went out on the road. They went to Troy, gave up 31 points, over 6.3 yards per play, success rate over 45%. Keep in mind, Troy is operating with a backup quarterback right now. Goose Crowder is hurt. Now, Tucker Kilcrease has actually been playing pretty well as the backup, so I don't want to just sneer at Troy's offense, but I don't think this South Alabama defense is good, and Cameron Brown seems to have this Georgia State offense looking better. I think the Panthers are going to score in this game. So when it comes to betting it, I would lean towards the Georgia State side. I don't have a ton of conviction on this one. If you ask me my favorite pick in the game is, I would probably say over 55.5, but I lean towards the Georgia State side. I don't have a bet in the game, but give me Georgia State plus 6.5 and over 55.5. So update, I recorded that last night and I couldn't get there. I didn't end up placing it. I do think it goes over the total, and I think Georgia State could score, so I would lean that way, but I didn't end up placing the bet. Thanks for watching. Live shows at midnight Eastern time as always. If you're able to make it, would love to see you in the comments. Make sure you bet responsibly.